The possible US pullout from NATO would definitely be a shot in the arm for Russia, but it is unlikely to lead to any Russian aggression or any new military activity close to NATO boundaries. It must be noted that Russia acts in defense rather than offense, hence US pullout or even the dissolution of the NATO will be a step towards global peace. US pullout would pave the way for fresh exchanges and interactions between the West and Russia. After some of the immediate security worries have subsided, both parties might be more open to talking about fresh security assurances and steps to boost mutual confidence. Germany's defense budget has increased significantly, which has sparked talks of removing the country's long-standing ban on nuclear weapons. Politicians in Germany are becoming concerned about this scenario, which is putting further pressure on Chancellor Olaf Scholz to accelerate increases in the defense budget. There are still calls for additional augmentation even after the Chancellor proposed a €100 billion special fund in February 2022.
Welcome to TFI Global, the antidote to mass delusion.
A leading contender from German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democratic Party, Katarina Barley, stated that US allies in Europe shouldn't always rely on Washington for nuclear defense. Barley underlined the necessity for European NATO countries to reevaluate their reliance on the US nuclear umbrella in reaction to Donald Trump's comments that the US should not support NATO allies that fall behind on payments.
No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Barley claims that it is no longer a sure thing to rely on the US for such vital support in light of Trump's recent remarks. In 2014, NATO members collectively committed to dedicating 2% of their gross domestic product, that is the GDP, to defense by the year 2025. As of 2024, however, just a third of the 30-member alliance had achieved this goal, while a staggering 13 nations within NATO allocated 1.5% or less of their GDP to defense, a glaring divergence from the agreed-upon aim as outlined by NATO's given data. Donald Trump, in a speech delivered in South Carolina, articulated a blunt perspective regarding NATO countries falling short of their military spending targets. He asserted that such nations should not presume US support in the event of an attack. Firstly, the organization's structure is ill-suited for a multipolar world. Trump contends that NATO's continuous expansion and robust military posture contribute to global tensions rather than fostering stability. Furthermore, he asserted that NATO's operations predominantly serve political and economic interests rather than addressing genuine security needs. He inferred that the alliance maintains the military-industrial complex, advances specific political agendas, and fosters dependency relationship with newer member states. Trump's condemnation of NATO is consistent with his overall America First foreign policy agenda. This strategy emphasizes a desire for less American involvement in international conflicts and alliances that are viewed as economically expensive or unfair. Throughout his presidency, Trump expressed a strong reluctance to participate in traditional multilateral accords and military obligations, citing concerns about depleting American resources and diverting attention away from important domestic goals like job creation. One noticeable characteristic of Trump's presidency was the absence of large new wars, demonstrating a desire to avoid global entanglements. His position on NATO and foreign policy in general reflects concerns about the alliance's relevance in the current geopolitical circumstances. As the global geopolitical landscape changes, it is becoming clear that relying primarily on the United States for security may not be sustainable for European countries. The difficulties in the transatlantic alliance, as evidenced by Trump's admonitions, have pushed European leaders to reconsider their security arrangements. As a result, proposals regarding the European Union expanding its army have gained traction. Trump informed an unnamed NATO member that Russia may behave as it pleases if partners fail to achieve military budget targets and threaten to withhold US support. Trump's emphasis on the US people first approach suggests that US tax money should not be used for NATO and military spending. Considering the uncertainty surrounding the US posture under Trump's leadership, this stance raises doubts about the reliance on European allies, igniting speculations about Germany gaining nuclear capability and the EU building its army. The concept of an EU army is not only a response to Trump's critiques, but also an acknowledgement of changing global power dynamics. NATO, which was founded during the Cold War, is no longer the most effective framework for safeguarding European security in the 21st century. A separate EU army might provide a more customized and unified response to the unique problems that European nations face. The idea of an EU army also solves the long-standing problem of burden sharing within NATO. The burden of security could be distributed more fairly if European nations combine their forces and resources under the protection of an EU army. The plan is consistent with the view that European nations should assume more responsibility for their own defense, minimizing reliance on the United States. The current security architecture has been brought to light by Trump's complaints about NATO's spending discrepancies. The talks around the potential creation of an EU army are a practical solution to these difficulties, providing European countries with a chance to improve their security capacities, accomplish burden sharing, and adjust to the strategically important environment. The possible US pullout from NATO would definitely be a shot in the arm for Russia, but it is unlikely to lead to any Russian aggression or any new military activity close to NATO boundaries. It must be noted that Russia acts in defense rather than offense, hence US pullout or even the dissolution of the NATO will be a step towards global peace. US pullout would pave the way for fresh exchanges and interactions between the West and Russia. After some of the immediate security worries have subsided, both parties might be more open to talking about fresh security assurances and steps to boost mutual confidence. Germany's defense budget has increased significantly, which has sparked talks of removing the country's long-standing ban on nuclear weapons. Politicians in Germany are becoming concerned about this scenario, which is putting further pressure on Chancellor Olaf Scholz to accelerate increases in the defense budget. There are still calls for additional augmentation even after the Chancellor proposed a €100 billion special fund in February 2022. Christian Democratic Union defense spokesman Roderick Kaiswater wants to triple the special fund, while SPD budget policy spokesman Andreas Schwarz advises looking at debt break exemptions for defense spending. However, the idea that Germany could have nuclear weapons is a significant obstacle, given that the French government does not currently maintain a nuclear deterrent across Europe. It is unclear which member of the EU would assume this duty. Germany now seems a strange choice for such a role shortly. Germany's engagement with NATO's military strategy and the post-World War II order are major factors in the country's historical commitment to refraining from acquiring nuclear weapons. To stop development, the US administration provided West Germany with security assurances and participated in the transfer of nuclear weapons. Agreements reached in the 2+4 treaty during the 1990 German reunification specifically forbade Germany from obtaining or producing nuclear weapons. Breaking this agreement would have serious diplomatic ramifications. Sheridan said, "More atomic bombs will not make the world safer," pointing out that the current global arsenal can destroy the planet 50 times over. Instead of dreaming about nuclear weapons, the SPD should push Germany to finally sign the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons, said the leader of Die Linke.